You ever notice how the smallest grudge can end up blowing the whole roof off a quiet life? That's what happened in my neighborhood just outside Orlando, Florida, and I'll tell you right now what. Started as petty drama turned into a full-blown mess none of us saw coming. We were just a bunch of regular folks, waving to each other in the mornings, mowing our lawns, kids riding bikes around the cul-de-sac, nothing fancy, until one late night, when somebody decided their opinion mattered more than the safety of the whole community. You know what I mean? Yeah, that happened. See, our neighbor Andre Whitfield, he's this solid, level-headed kind of guy. Early 40s, 2 kids, works as a project manager downtown. Keeps to himself mostly, the type you'd trust with your tools or your dog. A while back, he put up these solar panels on his roof. Wasn't a big deal, at least not to anyone's saying. He just wanted to cut his electric bill, help the environment a little, and if he could, make a little extra by letting the HOA pull power for our security system. Why not? It seemed like a win-win. But then there's Linda Caraway. Well, Linda's the kind of neighbor who knows every line in the HOA handbook and makes it her personal mission to patrol them. If your trash cans are out a minute past pickup, she's got pictures. Basketball hoop too close to the sidewalk. She'll write you up. She sat on the HOA board and wore that like a badge, and the moment those panels went up, you could practically hear her teeth grinding from 3 houses away. Called them an eyesore. Said they ruined the neighborhood's harmony, as if the harmony wasn't already wrecked by her daily complaints. Now, you'd think she'd get bored eventually, right? Not Linda. For months, she brought it up at meetings, sent emails with subject lines like urgent, property values at risk, and took photos from every possible angle just to prove the panels looked industrial. Most folks rolled their eyes and went back to their lives. But for Linda, it was personal. She needed control. And when control slipped through her fingers, she went rogue. So picture this, humid Thursday night, everyone in bed, the street quiet except for the hum of sprinklers and the distant whine of a car or two. Linda, with her silver sedan and a 5-gallon bucket of black paint in the trunk, parks in Andre's driveway. She's got an extension roller, gloves, her jaw set like she's on some holy mission. Climbs up on that roof. Takes real effort, too. She's not as spry as she used to be, and just starts smearing black paint over every panel, one after another. Didn't care that she could get caught. Didn't care that paint dripped everywhere. All she saw was those panels going dark. And her neighborhood, restored. If you ask me, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen a grown adult do for the sake of a grudge. Come morning, Andre's wife Marlene is the first to notice. Andre, what happened to the panels? She yells from the driveway, squinting up at the mess. Andre drops his briefcase, looks up, and his stomach just drops. 10 grand, gone in a night. Calls the police. But of course, the irony is thick. The cameras are dead, because the power for those? Yeah, came straight from the panels. But here's where it really gets wild. See, nobody knew those panels were the heart of the whole subdivision's security. Every camera, every streetlight, even the ones by the playground, all running off Andre's setup. A deal he made quietly with the HOA months back. He didn't want the attention, just wanted to do the right thing, get a little stipend, maybe teach his kids something about responsibility. Days go by, and then one by one, the lights start flickering out. Cameras show nothing but static. Parents can't check the playground feed. Folks start muttering in the group chat, and suddenly the place that felt safe feels exposed. Patricia, a retired teacher who'd lived there for 20 years, tells Andre, people are scared. Never seen anything like this. Thomas Green, who's always been the reasonable voice, says straight up, Andre, people are talking about suing the HOA if this doesn't get fixed. Folks are angry, man. And right there, Andre realizes this isn't just about some paint. It's about trust, his trust, and everyone else's, shattered by one person's grudge. At the next emergency HOA meeting, things hit a boiling point. The whole clubhouse is buzzing. Thomas points right at Linda in front of everyone, says, we all know who did it. Linda, arms folded, chin up, fires back. You can't prove anything. But nobody's buying it. Marlene stands up, cool as ever, says, our kids were put at risk. You think property values matter more than safety? The place explodes. Neighbors shout, you endangered us all. Linda tries to justify it. I was protecting us. But Patricia shuts her down with a line I'll never forget. You don't protect kids by turning off the lights that keep them safe. The vote comes quick. Hold Linda responsible, cover the costs, and Andre, well, it's up to him whether to press charges. The whole neighborhood is waiting on his decision. He sits on his porch that night, wrestling with it. If he lets it go, what's to stop the next Linda? But if he presses charges, the neighborhood war really starts. Even his brother, calling from Tampa, says, sometimes you gotta do the hard thing, Andre. If someone did that to your family, you'd tell them to fight. Finally, Andre does it. Calls the sheriff, files the report. Word spreads like wildfire. Some folks thank him. Others say he's making it worse. But that night, squad cars pull up, and for the first time, Linda isn't in control. She's escorted out, and for a moment, every neighbor peeking through their blinds realizes just how far things had gone. Weeks later, the panels are replaced, this time with the HOA covering every penny. Linda's gone, staying with her sister, they say, waiting on her court date. Neighborhood meetings aren't about lawn ornaments anymore. They're about patrols, about real safety, about neighbors watching out for each other. People talk more, wave more, even trust a little more. As for Andre, he's not a hero, just a guy who did what needed doing when the line got crossed. And yeah, maybe it cost the neighborhood its quiet for a while, but sometimes you need a little noise to remember what matters. So let me ask you, what would you have done? Stand up or stay quiet? Because if there's one thing we all learned, it's that silence is never the answer when someone else's pride threatens everyone's peace. Go ahead, sound off in the comments. Who was right? Who was wrong? What does justice really mean in a place where everyone just wants to feel safe? And if this hit home for you, make sure to like, subscribe, and stick around. There are more stories coming, and you won't want to miss what's next. Now, you'd figure after all that drama, sheriff's cars on the street, Linda out of the picture, HOA finally acting like grown-ups, the neighborhood would just settle back into its easy rhythm, right? I mean, that's what Andre hoped for, what Marlene wanted for their kids, what Patricia prayed for every night, watering her azaleas and pretending everything was fine. But real life's never that tidy, you know? Sometimes when you rip the mask off a problem, you find out just how deep the cracks run. Let me back up a sec, just so you get the vibe around here after Linda got hauled out. For a little while, folks walked a little lighter, kids were back on their bikes, people actually waved at each other, and every house on the street kept their porch lights blazing late into the night, just daring the dark to come any closer. The new panels on Andre's roof gleamed like armor, and every time a neighbor passed by, they'd give him this little nod, like, we're with you. Even Thomas, who'd always been a bit of a grump, started organizing Saturday morning walks, just to keep an eye on things. But really, it was about showing the neighborhood wasn't scared anymore. But old wounds don't heal that quick. Sure, the cameras worked. The lights came back on, but you could still feel the tension humming under everything, like a storm just waiting for another excuse. Andre started noticing it at HOA meetings, in the way folks split into quiet little clusters, whispering as soon as the board president's back was turned. Some blamed Linda for everything, wanted to wipe her name off every record and pretend she'd never existed. Others said Andre had gone too far, that taking a neighbor to court just made things uglier, not safer. It's funny, isn't it? People always say they want justice, but when justice looks like a neighbor in handcuffs, they get cold feet. One evening, about a month after the whole thing blew up, Marlene found a note tucked under their doormat. No signature, just neat handwriting. Some things are better handled quietly. Not every problem needs to go public. She brought it inside, hands shaking a little, and Andre just stared at it. Was it a threat? A plea? Or just someone who didn't have the guts to speak up in the light of day? Either way, the message was clear. Not everyone liked the way things had gone down. Meanwhile, Linda's case crept through the legal system. At Florida speed, slow, sticky, full of delays. Every now and then someone would mention her in the group chat, but mostly it was nervous speculation. Patricia heard she was living with her sister in Ocala, waiting on a court date, refusing to answer any of the HOA's letters about damages. But her shadow still stretched across the street. Nobody else volunteered for the board, and every meeting felt a little emptier without her voice, even if nobody would admit it. But the real twist came late one Friday night. Months after the paint had dried and the headlines faded, Marlene was out with friends, the kids asleep, and Andre was out back cleaning up after a barbecue when he saw movement across the street, just a shape at first, slinking behind Linda's old house. His heart hammered. It was almost midnight, the air thick, cicadas buzzing. At first, he figured it was nothing, maybe a raccoon, maybe some kid sneaking a smoke. But then he saw a flashlight beam flicker through the back window. Andre didn't even think, just grabbed his phone, called Thomas, who lived 2 houses down. "Hey man, you up?" Andre whispered. "I think somebody's in Linda's house." Thomas, groggy but sharp, said he'd call the sheriff, told Andre to stay put. But you know how it goes, some part of Andre just couldn't sit still, not after everything. He crept to the edge of his yard, ducking behind the mailbox, eyes fixed on the house. A shadow flitted past the kitchen window, then another. 2 people, voices low, moving fast. Andre's breath caught. He could feel that same helpless anger from the night the cameras went dark. Except now, the cameras worked, the lights were on. All he could do was watch and wait. Within 5 minutes, blue lights flashed down the street. Deputies pulled up, quiet as ghosts, and 2 figures bolted from the side door, running straight across the Whitfield's yard. Andre shouted, and Thomas came out swinging a flashlight like a baseball bat, just in time for the deputies to catch one of the would-be burglars by the mailbox. The other vanished into the night. The next day, everyone knew. This wasn't some random break-in. Turns out, Linda's house had been empty for months, and someone, a cousin, a former tenant, nobody really knew, had tipped off these guys that it was full of electronics, maybe even some leftover jewelry. Without neighbors watching, without Linda pacing in her slippers every morning, it was just another easy target. But this time, the system held. The cameras caught faces, the lights scared them off. And the deputies had what they needed. For once, the neighborhood wasn't the victim. You'd think folks would be relieved, right? Well, yes and no. Relief mixed with a sort of embarrassed guilt. People realized how close they'd come to slipping right back into complacency, thinking safety was just about gadgets and rules. At the next HOA meeting, Patricia stood up and said, "Let's not pretend the panels saved us. It was neighbors looking out for neighbors. That's what matters." You could feel something shift, like people finally understood what Andre had tried to teach them, even if it had taken a brush with real danger to make it stick. As for Andre, he felt tired, honestly. Tired, but also oddly hopeful. When Jordan asked him that night, "Are we safe now, Dad?" Andre knelt down and told him, "We're as safe as we make each other, buddy. That's what counts." Marlene squeezed his hand, and for the first time in months, Andre actually believed it. But of course, nothing stays peaceful forever. The court date for Linda's vandalism case finally arrived, and the whole neighborhood held its breath. Some folks wanted her locked up. Others wanted her to apologize and move on, but everyone agreed. They'd never let one person's bitterness threaten the group again. In the end, the judge ordered restitution and community service. And Linda, ashen-faced, looking older than Andre remembered, read a statement to the board, voice trembling. "I thought I was protecting my home. I see now I put us all in danger. I'm sorry." Some folks nodded. Others just looked away. But the line had been drawn, and everyone knew it. These days, the subdivision feels different, still imperfect, still full of quirks and opinions. But a little braver, a little closer. Folks talk more, wave longer, and when a new family moves in, they get invited to the Saturday walks, no questions asked. Andre sometimes catches himself looking up at those solar panels, wondering how a little black paint changed everything. But he knows the truth now. It wasn't the panels, or the paint, or the rules. It was people, choosing to speak up, to protect each other, even when it got messy. So, what do you think? Did Andre do the right thing? Would you have stood up, or stayed quiet? Let's hear your take down in the comments. Because every community faces its test, and sometimes the real heroes are just the neighbors who refuse to let fear call the shots. If you want more stories like this, real drama, real choices, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share your own neighborhood tales. Who knows, maybe next time it'll be your street we're talking about.